What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show, and thanks for listening. I'm your host, Aaron Hepler. You're listening to the In Camp Podcast. Today, my guest is a protege, and you're going to like to hear from who. We're talking whitetails. We're talking postseason scouting. We're reflecting on some really important stories in this one, and maybe even a story that this young man is only telling for the first time. I think you're going to want to hear it because I learned something from it. He learned something from it. You'll learn something from it. So enjoy the show. This is In Camp Podcast. I'm here in the studio today with Tyson Pottenger, and we just got done recording a short episode that you'll get to hear later on. But it's good to have you on, buddy.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. And there's never a bad day talking whitetail bucks ever.
Yeah. So this is kind of like a backwards way of doing it, but Tyson, why don't you give me a little bit of your background?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that is in the hunting world or likes hunting whitetail has probably heard my father Troy talk podcast or seen us on Whitetail Addictions. And yeah, I grew up in the North Idaho and grew up just in the public lands hunting mountain bucks. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot different than the vast majority of whitetail hunters, across the country. Not saying it's better or worse, but it's different for sure. It's definitely it's a completely different landscape and just the set of challenges that came growing up. I was in my dad's backpack at 2 years old when he was out shed hunting, and he'd pack me along. And I have an older brother. He's big into bass fishing. He kind of applies the same strategies, and just the mindset that we grew up with bass fishing. And so I love doing that too. I mean, that's kind of my spring thing. It gets away from some of my shed hunting time. But no, I gravitated, under my dad's wing to the whitetails and to bow hunting them. I killed one deer with a rifle when I was really young, and the next year I was able to pull the legal weight and kill the buck with my bow. And ever since then, I'll probably never pick up another gun in my life. Just fell in love with it, getting that close to a big mature buck. When I was really young, I was filming my dad before I could even hunt. So I got so used to having deer, right next to me and right under me and filming really big, special deer, when back at that time, I really didn't understand what I was looking at, in the vast scheme of whitetail hunting. I was very blessed and lucky to have the father that I have, and all the cool stuff that, comes with whitetail hunting. I just was enjoying time, spending time with my dad. So that kind of trumped all the big racks and inches, and, that just formed me as a man that I am today, growing up in the woods, doing hard stuff with my old man.
Yeah. That's really what it's all about, man. Like, so there's everything swings different directions. Like you have the guys are like, oh, inches don't matter. And then like quite honestly, I just told you, like 120, 110 inch bucks make me happy sometimes, It's about what you're experiencing. But like if you want to hunt really big bucks and that's what gets you going,
yeah, do it.
Hunt big buck. Like,
yeah,
why? Like for me, I want to hunt a big buck. I put myself in the best position that I can to shoot the biggest one that I can find.
Yeah.
If that buck doesn't come first and I see one that gets me excited,
kill him.
I've got other things to hunt,
Yeah.
But if that's what you really love and that's how you love the sport, then that's what you should do.
Yeah.
And it's not to do, like, if you're sitting there like, oh, I hunt big bucks and everybody else who shoots small bucks is, what's the point?
Lesser than you. Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah. But the important thing about what we can learn from you, Ty, is that you've learned a lot from your dad, but you've learned a lot from doing these hard things in the mountains that you hunt.
Yeah.
You were telling, and I'm on the East Coast, and you were telling me people might say like, "Oh, well, that's not relatable because of elevation change." I think it is
Yeah.
because you're hunting deer that have their own personalities. You're hunting deer that like some kind of elevation change. And you've applied those things to the gateway of the Midwest in
Yeah.
Ohio. Okay.
Mhm.
So you can't tell me that it's not relatable because it is. They're
No,
whitetails,
deer
right?
deer do deer things.
Oh,
It's just the obstacles and some of the factors that go into killing them out here are vastly different than other places. But deer
yeah.
do deer things.
Right. So you're looking at, I think when you come from where you're at, you're looking at a place like where I'm at with a magnifying glass,
Yep.
right? Um, so tell me one thing that you love about hunting whitetails in Idaho.
Yeah, that's a tough question. One thing I love about, yeah, I would just honestly the amount of time and effort that goes into killing a big mature public land buck. Um, there's no way around it. It's hard. Like
Mhm,
it's all the stuff that we have to go through that people would never think. Chaining trucks up to get into the frickin' mountains. Having deer get killed by wolves and mountain lions and black bears and grizzly bears.
yeah,
Stuff like that. The reason I love it so much is because how difficult it is. You
mhm,
know, um, those long days. 2 o'clock mornings because we're not just driving 15 minutes down the road to our property is the truth, to go
mhm.
to go get in a stand. A lot of times just the access of getting your vehicle to where you're parking is literally an adventure in itself. Like, no joke. I mean, we don't go anywhere without a chainsaw, a shovel, and a four-wheeler in the back just for weight so we can get into these spots.
Yeah,
So that's what I love about it is the stuff that doesn't, I mean, it has to do with killing the deer, obviously, but just the work that you have to do to even get to them or get around them. That's what I love about it because it's just
mhm.
different than what most people and most guys have to go through. And it makes it better. It just makes it so when you finally connect with one, it's like, holy cow, like the amount of work that we just put in to get this deer in front of us is just that's what we love about it. That's what I love about it.
What was your sketchiest story driving in?
Um, well, it wasn't driving in, and trust me, we have between my dad and I, we have many of these, but I mean, this is real life, like scared. I was in high school
Mhm,
hunting a big deer. My dad was 3 hours away, in a different area hunting another big deer.
mhm,
It was in November, and I was hunting. When I drove in, it was about a 2.5 hour drive off the highway. So 2.5 hours off paved roads just to get to
yeah,
where I parked and hunted all day. And I got in there. There was about 6 to 8 inches of snow. And so it wasn't a terrible time getting in. Um, but it was snowing all day, all day. And I sat all
mhm,
day and didn't see a deer, you know, which is how it is in the mountains. And I get back to my truck and there's like 16 inches of snow in this road. And I'm like, holy cow, I got to get out of here, and the
yeah,
old man's not close. He knows where I'm at if something bad were to happen. And
yeah.
I get in my truck, click, click,
Oh, no.
and my truck doesn't start. And, I was like 15 years old, I think, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. There ain't nobody around. There's nobody to help me. There's no
Mhm,
phone service. Like it's just me and I got to figure out how the hell I can get this truck started. So I pop the hood and I look and my battery terminals are just covered in, acid and corrosion and stuff like that.
mhm,
Um, just from I think it was just from condensation of all the snow and it was real foggy that day. And well,
yeah,
I don't drive a brand new truck. It was a high
mhm,
school rig. So I'm like trying to think I have nothing in my truck. This is I've learned from now on, I carry a wire brush now, just stuff like
Mm,
that.
yeah.
And I had tinfoil from my lunch that day. I had like some leftover pizza. And so I had tinfoil in my pack and I'm like, I'm gonna, I can use that. And so I get this tinfoil, I crumple it up and I'm literally in a blizzard in the mountains, rubbing my freaking battery terminals and then I get back in and that was step one. Now I had
Yeah.
16 inches of snow to drive
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And so thank God for Toyota pickup trucks and 4 Low. I crawled out of there and had some sketchy spots, but nothing crazy, crazy where, I didn't slide off the road or nothing. But yeah, I remember getting back to where we were staying that night and dad and I reconvened and he's like, how'd your day go? And I'm like, just another day in the mountains, Pops. Just another day in the mountains. But that one was
Yeah.
scary.
Those are the kind of stories you tell your parents when you like have your first kid and stuff, like,
Yeah.
hey, this one time.
Yeah. My son or future kids will never go to the woods without a wire brush in their truck for their
Yeah.
battery terminals.
Well, it's a good point, man, because we're hearing like this year, and it's probably because news just travels differently nowadays. But a lot of guys are running into some. Somebody recently got lost in some bad weather and ended up getting found dead, and it's
Yeah.
like,
You can't cheat the mountains. Like, it's a
yeah,
very serious game out there.
even if it's something where you're like, come on, dude. Sorry, my dogs are barking again.
No worries.
Um, even if it's like, okay, do I really need to take I'm only going right over here. But how many times have you said I'm only going right over here and then something a little bit further catches your eye, then something else a little catches your eye, and
Yep.
then you're in it a couple miles
Yep.
and now you get stuck in a bad situation.
Yeah. Oh, it happens more than people would even imagine, and it's very
Mhm.
serious. Like, people die every year, year in and year out. There is 1 to 2 or more fatalities from hunters in the mountains, whether you're elk hunting or moose hunting or you know, cat
Yeah.
hunting, stuff like
Yeah.
that. It happens. And so that's what I mean when that's my favorite part about it is because it is seriously like it's life or death sometimes in the mountains. It really
Mhm.
is. And
Mhm.
so and we're doing all that just to kill a whitetail.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it unbelievable when you get one killed and everybody gets out safe and I mean it's a year-long thing.
Yeah, and then you hear the guys that do it for like upland birds and you're like, not that I wouldn't do it, I would do it, but it's just like,
Everybody's got their own
okay.
niche.
It's cool, man. So what we kind of got on to talking about in the beginning of this, before we got on, we're kind of getting to know each other a little bit. I really want to get your view of the whole picture of a season because everybody has a like, I'm an early season hunter. I only hunt uh
Right. Yeah.
the rut. I only hunt scrape week. I always avoid the October lull. Late season sucks. Whatever, right? And I think this is going to air December 23rd. So we'll probably talk a little bit about late season, but this is a really good time to kind of reflect on your season.
Yeah.
And I think from a perspective of somebody that's listening to this is if you think that you can only hunt a specific time of year, this is a good podcast. This is going to be a good podcast to figure out why that's not true.
Yeah.
You can hunt anytime because, you know, there's some debate on whether or not you can kill them from the couch. And I'm sure sometimes there is, but sometimes you just need to spend time in the woods.
Yeah.
So from we talked about postseason scouting, but what are you doing the week prior to the Idaho deer season?
Yeah. So we open late August, last couple days of August, early September. So the week leading up to it, um, I the truth is hay's kind of already in the barn at that point, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. We've put the last 4 or 5 months of a lot of boots on the ground, shed hunting, scouting, running cameras, driving a lot to look at new country. Our summer, a lot of times, how we kind of structure it, how we've attacked it now that we can both kind of do this. I'm at that age now where I do a lot of stuff on my own.
Uh-huh.
But then we always do this, right before season on, all right, here's what we got. Here's the new stuff that we did. Is there a big deer and new stuff? We always in the summer attack new areas. But there's historical data, obviously, that you run off of from the years prior. And so at that point in the season, hay's kind of in the barn. We have we've got the hit list, so to speak, of who we're going to target. And we don't, in early season, we get after it,
Uh-huh.
but we only spend our time on deer that are killable.
Uh-huh.
Um, and sometimes that's not the biggest deer we have on camera, truthfully. So, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we're hunting a buck that might not score as much, but that buck is killable. That buck has shown that he'll daylight. That buck is, we're closer on that buck. We're in that buck's wheelhouse more than we are on a buck that might be bigger. And sometimes it is the biggest buck we're hunting. You know, that's how we hope it is, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
but that week before season, hay's in the barn. We've got stuff. Stands are set. Stuff is checked, scrapes are going, all of our scouting is done up to that point. But we also have no problem in September if we don't have a buck that's seriously killable. Dad and I are still scouting. We're,
Uh-huh.
we're still making moves and trying to increase our chances until you're in the game. Because if you're not
Uh-huh.
in the game in early season, it's very hard to kill a big mountain buck if you're not in the game,
Yeah.
regardless of what time of year it is. But
Uh-huh.
early season, especially, I mean, you have to be close to their bed. So that's what we're doing. That September month really is you're hunting bedding areas, you're hunting, natural bed to feed transitions where a big buck is gonna, we always hunt scrapes, and even if it's just a mock there, like we're trying to get him to frequent that spot under that tree more often. So that's kind of the early season approach, I would say.
So when you're going through the early season and then you hit that period where everybody says it's that like might as well stay at home. Are
Yep.
you still hunting that October lull, or are you taking time to just kind of recoup, look over history, maybe try to figure things out? What are you doing there?
Yeah, I mean, like I always say about every whitetail, every situation's different, right?
Uh-huh.
The way that our seasons lay out, in the states that we hunt, um, rifle season opens in October, for multiple states that we hunt. A lot of times that can be just a straight cluster of people running around in the woods, and so usually in October. Now, if we have a big deer that is in a spot where he's not getting pushed by people and he's killable, we're hunting him because
Uh-huh.
we can hunt in the rifle season with a bow with a lesser weapon. So
Right.
we're hunting him, we're on him, and that's what we're doing. If it's a situation that happens, I would say more frequently than not, where there's so many people in the woods running around, driving around, making noise, driving four wheelers, and that buck, a lot of times they'll just shut down
Uh-huh.
and they'll be around, but a lot of if they're not daylighting and we don't think we have a chance of him daylighting, if he's not cutting it close or so to speak, then we're scouting and we're trying to find the next move on a specific buck or a new area that we maybe didn't get to in the summer where we think we can kill some deer in there in November.
Uh-huh.
Um, we're scouting, but it's all dependent on what we have going on. And if a big buck is killable, our ass is in a seat on him. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
We have no problem in season scouting in October. Zero.
for sure. So let's say you do have a lot of that pressure during the October lull, because it seems to be everybody gets really excited and they do hunt that time frame even though everybody says it sucks. And then a lot of the pressure kind of tapers off towards the end of October.
Yep.
But you said something that I think is important. You said about a buck shutting down.
Yep.
Has there ever been a scenario where the buck shut down where you normally find him, but you use that pressure to get behind it,
Yep.
push past the pressure, or maybe the pressure pushes past and you have it up front where
Yeah.
that deer is. And that deer is active in a new area where you didn't have him before,
Yeah.
or
I mean,
in his secondary area.
yeah. There's kind of multiple points to that question. I mean, when it comes to pressure wise, we always try to, even in the early season, you know, we we hardly ever have one spot for a deer, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
one area that we're going to target him. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times in those August, September months, or even July, we already are planning, okay, where's this buck going to go when everybody floods the woods? Where's his
Mm-hmm.
hideout? Where do we think, if he isn't here and he isn't daylighting here, where do we think he might adjust to?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like you said, that might be, we got to put in a lot more leg work, and you just got to do what sucks and go further and get back to where nobody's walking. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's where guys are driving by him every morning
Mm-hmm.
and he's
Mm-hmm.
listening to every car go up the drainage, go right by him.
Yeah.
So it does. There's been situations of both. Sometimes the way our mountain bucks respond to some of this pressure is they will literally just, middle of October, I'm going to lay down all day and I'm not going to get up and go get water or go eat or mill around or go check scrapes until it's 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, and they're hard to kill in October, straight up. I mean, there's no way around it. They're hard to kill in October. I will say that last 5 days of October is some of the most overlooked time in our region because our rut is a lot later than, the typical August or October 30th to November 7th in the Midwest, where it's just lights out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're our bucks in late October. A lot of times what we see is that's a really good time to kill a big deer because he is, okay, I got to go monitor and replenish and refresh my area scrapes more so because I got to get a feel that, they're it's a communication post. They have to get a feel of who's alive,
Mm-hmm.
what bucks are moving in to the area, which happens a lot in late October. Those bucks shift. You'll get a buck that lives 5 miles away in the summer that shows up, late October that last week. And so those adjustments and shifts, like I alluded to earlier, is we always try to have those planned out in the summer so that we're not chasing our tail in October after you've just, worn yourself out in September trying to kill him. You already have stuff set in motion to go jump in and check. And as soon as he shows up, boom, I'm on him, even if
Yeah.
it is only a 2-day stretch in October.
Mm-hmm. So overlooked spots. Okay. Well, before I start there,
Yeah.
I think, what you're saying is true. The overlooked time frame is that end of October. I love the 22nd to the 30th.
Yeah.
And then I pretty much hate from the 30th to the 7th because everybody takes their vacation in that time.
Yeah.
They take their vacation for a really good reason.
Oh,
If
100%.
you haven't done a lot of scouting, or you kind of only know the general area, or you don't really care about specific bucks,
Yeah.
that is the best time to kill a buck,
Buck.
a big buck.
Yep.
Hands down, that chasing time frame of the rut is the best way to be a blind squirrel, right? Because a
Yeah.
blind squirrel
For
eventually finds a nut,
for a guy
right?
that doesn't have all the work put into it, yes.
Yeah, and there's really, quite honestly, nothing wrong to that because you can
No.
still in-season scout during the rut and find out where the corridors are that they're using this year. There's nothing wrong with that, and you have a really good chance of killing a big buck. But your best time to kill a buck that in my opinion, is somewhere between the 22nd and the 30th.
Yep.
But back to my main point, overlooked spots. Everybody is looking for an overlooked spot now because
Yeah.
everybody talks about overlooked spots.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, if every spot by the parking lot is overlooked, or every spot way back is overlooked, and the spot that you walk past on the trail is overlooked and everybody is looking for those overlooked spots.
Yeah.
How do you find it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people whitetail hunt nowadays. There's a big influx of whitetail bow hunters. And one thing that I've experienced on public land, growing up with it my whole life is the truth is half of my scouting is people scouting. Seriously. Like
Yeah.
I will drive and go for a drive for a full day in those times where, people are flooding the woods, and the overlooked spot is where you don't see anybody hunting. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously guys are hunting specific spots and areas for a reason. That's probably where deer live, or, a good bedding area or thick timber or what have it. But sometimes it's as simple as getting in a truck and literally spending your time and not worrying about, oh, I should be in a tree right now. If you don't have a killable deer, don't waste your time and be efficient with your time and go look and people scout. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I find doing that in the summer, around here we have a lot of elk guys, and that puts a bunch of pressure on our bucks in September. That's different than what a lot of guys experience in the Midwest. We have elk hunters everywhere, all
Mm-hmm.
over the mountains in September.
Mm-hmm.
And that affects a big deer just as much as anything else. Elk hunters walking through the woods. And so I do a lot of people scouting, plain and
Yeah.
simple. And I go where people aren't, or where
What
people
are the top
go.
what are the top 3 things that you're looking for when you're people? So I agree, like I do the thing, I I'll go out driving at the times people are supposed to be hunting in the beginning of November.
Yeah.
And I do it for next year most of the time. Like, okay, well, there's this many people hunting here, and then I mark spots that don't have people.
Yeah.
If I can drive, if there's different access that allows that.
Yep.
But if I'm postseason scouting, I look for a few things. But what are the top 3 things that you're looking for to tell you that somebody is hunting that location?
Yeah. I mean, I look at tire tread a lot, you know, I,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'll track a tire tread and count how many times that guy's coming in and out,
Mm,
and
mm-hmm.
maybe that's too specific to say,
No, that's perfect.
but I'll look at tire treads, our mountains, our logging roads or access roads or whatever. A lot of times in the fall they're wet, muddy, and so I'll look at that, tire treads. Obviously, I'm looking for where guys are parked,
Mm-hmm.
and I can usually guess where they're hunting based on where they're parked. You know,
Yeah.
um, a lot of guys just plain and simply. Now, elk hunters you can't predict. Elk hunters are
Right.
going where the elk live. They're walking all
Right.
over.
Right.
But whitetail hunters, there's specific things that guys target. Ridges, benches, a big hub, on the bottom of a creek system, stuff like that. I can usually, what I'll do is see where the guy's parked, and I'll jump on my map and go, okay, he's most likely here.
Mm-hmm.
Now where is that pressure? Where is his wind blowing? On a normal prevailing wind day, where are the deer going to adjust to him
Mm-hmm.
and move around him to stay safe? And so,
Yeah.
a lot of times that's not a huge move, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying I go sit next to people. I hate doing
Yeah.
that. I don't want
Yeah.
anybody.
You'd
Yeah,
rather be alone.
yeah. I don't want
Yeah.
to. I don't want to ruin anybody's hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they're out there working just like we are. I'm not trying to go sit next to him off of, okay, well, this deer is going to skirt this guy here, and then I'm going to kill him. No, but in a vast majority, or a vast landscape that we are in, and deer move, they have to cover more ground, especially in the late season and in the rut. I can get half a mile or mile and a half off of a guy,
Yeah.
and be hunting the same buck. And I know
Yeah.
it for a fact because I hunt around people, and I know they're hunting. There's a reason they're in a specific area. Probably,
For
they're
sure.
hunting the same deer.
Is there ever a time where do you think that, so you're talking about, elk pressure, your dad and you had mentioned it earlier, the lions and the grizzlies and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I think that pressure definitely affects whitetails.
that's
But
the biggest pressure they have
yeah,
for our
but
deer.
Do you think that recreational pressure or somebody that's hunting something else really affects deer that much, or do you think that they kind of hang back? So, for example, um, there's a lot of guys that grouse hunt where I'm at,
Yeah.
and I get pictures of them grouse hunting
Yep.
all the time. Their dogs are going through, they're going through, and an hour later, I get a giant buck on camera.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that that pressure really affects them. Do you think they know the difference when it comes to different hunting types of pressure?
Um, I think they do. You know, we have the same thing. I mean, we've got grouse hunters, we've got guys that are cutting firewood, chainsaw
Yeah,
guys. Our deer in our mountains hear people all the time.
yeah,
They do. Now, what I will say is there is no doubt in my mind, no question in my mind that our bucks know when opening day is.
yeah.
They hear those bucks listen to every car, every truck, every door slam of guys in the woods. And when
Mhm,
auditory, you know, that auditory sense just gets blown up because they hear it so much more often when it's hunting season.
yeah,
They're not dumb. They, I think that, yeah, if a deer spooked and jumped out of his skin on every noise he heard, no, they don't do that. They're they're
yeah.
they're smarter than that. A buck,
Mhm,
a buck in our woods listens to a guy cut a chainsaw, freaking 300 days out of 365 days a year.
mhm,
That doesn't worry him. Now, if it's 100 yards from him, yeah, he's not going to like it and he's going to leave. But
mhm,
the the guys that are the recreational pressure, like you're saying, a guy driving his side by side, just ripping around roads. No, I don't think that really scares them much or affects
yeah,
their movement patterns or makes them bed in a different spot unless it's right on top of them. And then they'll shift and adjust. And the next day, when he doesn't hear that four wheeler ripping by him, yeah, he's probably not that worried to go in there.
yeah. So when we're talking specific bucks and we're talking about kind of the whole picture,
Yeah.
do you have a story that you can relate to a specific deer that had its own personality?
Oh, every big deer we've probably killed, I would say. Yeah.
Pick one. Pick one.
Uh, a deer that I killed that I would say had his own personality that was very a buck that I killed in Montana a couple years ago,
Mhm,
and he was now this is a completely different shift of what I am used to hunting. I'm out here in Montana when I was playing football at the time, so I had 1.5 days a week to go try to sit in a stand real quick and kill a buck.
mhm,
But this buck specifically was used to people.
mhm,
He's used to farmers. He hears a highway his whole life every day.
mhm,
He's used to the property owners walking around their property with their kids. And he was so I would see this deer pretty much every time I went out to the property.
mhm.
Now seeing him and getting him in bow range
Two
was a
different
lot
story.
harder
Yeah.
than I thought it was gonna be, to be completely honest with you. Because I'm used to never seeing a buck until I see him usually one time in the mountains, and that's your shot. And that's the only
Yeah.
time you ever see him, literally.
Mhm,
And so I'm looking at this buck every day in the summer, you know, and his personality in the summer was so drastically different. Now, obviously, in the rut, they're testosteroned up, and you hear about bully bucks and all this stuff. This deer was the biggest scraper I've ever seen in my life. I put a mock scrape close.
perfect for the Pottinger.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I knew he was in trouble when I checked that camera for the first time. But I put this scrape in on him in October. I
Yeah.
didn't land the piece until, I didn't get permission on it until early October. But I put this, I had watched him all summer,
Mhm,
and I had watched where he beds and where he likes to access food and how he dealt with different winds and where he would like to move out of his bedding area. I had his bedding area pretty much pinned down. And the reason I say this buck has a cool personality is this deer was literally laying in a patch of timber with about 4 trees in it and brush, where the homeowners walked by him 30 yards every day.
oh, wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because they would walk their property. And it wasn't a small property, but Now they didn't walk it every day, but they, once a week or twice a week, they would be out there walking their property. And I
Yeah.
know for a fact I watched him one time laying down with his rack, and these guys walk right by him, and he
And
doesn't
didn't
care.
even get
He's
up.
used to them.
Yeah.
Now, when I went in there and put that camera and put a big mock scrape, you know, close to his bedroom on an access point to food, that deer literally would come and hit that scrape in the morning, in the daylight. Now, mind you, I'm playing football at this point, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to check this camera, and I'm like, holy, like this deer is so killable. But he would daylight in the morning, he'd come back, whether it was midday or in the evening, he'd daylight again, and then he would make 2 trips to this scrape over about a 10-week period. I literally would have almost every day daylight, and then every night, like
Mm-hmm.
multiple trips, because he was literally standing up, going to check it, and there's high deer density, and he had a lot of competition and a lot of does.
Okay.
This buck was like, I never, I just, it was crazy. It's this buck above me right here, over my right shoulder. But
Okay.
anyway, he was just cool to watch for me because I've never seen a buck scrape like this. Like,
Yeah.
I've got video of this buck literally jumping up on his hinds and beating the licking branch and
Oh,
breaking it.
cool.
I'd have to go in and rebuild my licking branch every week. And I ended up killing him the third day that I sat on him, and he came into the scrape and tore the scrape up to shreds and walked out and killed him at 12 yards. But that buck was, his personality was just so fun to watch because it was so different than what I'm used to, a big mountain ghost that doesn't see humans and just scared at the crack of a twig. And this buck was like, oh yeah, there's Jim and Joe walking by me. And but then he was also just such a dominant scraper. It was just cool to watch.
That's such a cool story, dude, because it's like I kind of finished it like, oh, like I sat on him 3 times and just shot him. But your story was the part leading up to
Yeah.
the shot, right? It's
Yeah.
not just like it's not always just the sit that's the part of the story that
No.
gets you going about deer hunting,
Yeah.
right? About any hunt.
I actually snort wheezed him to my tree, which was
Oh, that's cool.
cool part of the, he was a, I wouldn't say a bully buck because he was the best buck out there. He was just the man. And he
Yeah.
he was scent checking it and was skirting by me. I snort wheeze. He turned on a dime and came straight to the scrape. So
Yeah.
cool.
So the longevity of doing hard things. So this is kind of a little bit of a shift, and we're gonna come in and out of deer hunting now. But you're talking about doing all these hard things, and you guys are hunting, pretty high elevations compared to, PA.
Yep.
We have stuff going from probably 200 to 1,500 feet. That's probably average.
Yeah.
There's places that are a little higher, places lower, whatever. But still the elevation, but everything about hunting a deer, no matter where you do it, is difficult, right? It has its own set of challenges. Like you had to get permission on a place in Montana.
Yep.
That's not always easy.
No.
You had to learn that deer every day in the summer, and that takes commitment.
Yeah.
What are you doing to maintain the longevity of doing hard things? Because I know you and your brother both played ball, correct?
My brother stopped in high school, but
Okay.
I always say if he would have kept playing, he'd have had a better career than me. He was a horse.
Yeah, but there's bass fishing. I mean,
Yeah, and the amount of the amount of passion and work that we put into killing a whitetail, Jess does just as much and more sometimes on his bass fishing. He's an incredible fisherman, but it's because he's always the first one on the water and the last one off, above everybody else.
yeah, and like I said, everything has its own hard,
Yep.
and bass fishing is definitely that. I think the cool thing about whitetails and bass fishing is if you I love to bass fish. I love fishing in general, but I love to bass fish. Bass fishing and whitetails are like,
So similar.
one's done on land and one's done in the
It's
water. They're the same
You're
thing.
literally just, all a bass is hunting a big whitetail, but all the terrain is underwater. That's all it is.
Mhm. Yeah, it's flipped upside down.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing to maintain your longevity? Because you're kind of a young guy. So, what are you doing to keep it going? Because I know you want to keep doing this in your 80s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, being a collegiate athlete, I was used to doing hard things growing up, when it came to whitetail hunting, and then also with sports. But I know how to take care of my body very
Mm-hmm.
well, just from going. That's what I went to school for. Actually, was kinesiology, so the
Nice.
science of the human body. So for longevity, I mean, I don't know. I know how to eat right. I know how to take care of my body, but the truth is, for our stuff and for, I think, the longevity of doing hard things, is it's 95% mental,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just the ability to, when you're on day 6 of hunting a big deer in a row and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you haven't been going to sleep till 10 o'clock at night, and you're running on no sleep and you're tired and you're getting your butt kicked, like, just the ability to wake your ass up and do it again and do those hard things. When I did it at such a young age, it's just what we do, it's, I didn't really have to learn it, so to speak. And, like some guys do, where they don't get into this until they're older. I was blessed to I just grew up doing hard things. So it's a mentality, honestly. I think it's all mental when it comes to doing, to being in the grind and embracing the grind, and, you know, eating tag soup after season because you're hunting one deer and it's not a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. Like, it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get beat sometimes, and that's what makes it fun. That's what makes the grind worth it.
What was a story that was a time where you got really frustrated with a deer or a hunting scenario and you failed, but it taught you something that you'll never forget?
Yeah, I mean, I've failed a lot more than I've succeeded. Uh
Everybody has. The
Straight up.
whitetail woods.
I mean, and I've had a lot of opportunities. I'm 22 years old, and the truth is I've had more opportunities on big mature deer than a lot of people will get in their lifetime. Just straight up.
Yeah.
Um the one that sticks out the most is this year. And I haven't really told anybody this story. It's been so fresh, and
Perfect.
yeah, this has kind of just been an in-house thing, but I guess we'll air it out now. Um, I hunted a really big deer this whole year. In September, I'm living in Bozeman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I told you this before. I'm not really hunting in Montana right now, just because I don't have a deer that flips my trigger over here. Um, so I was hunting a lot back home in Idaho and Washington, and I hunted a big deer all of September. I put a lot of work in on him. I was living with him, literally hunting him in the morning, sleeping on the side of the mountain all day, and then hunting him in the evening in 100-degree heat.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one specific buck, um, but there was two other really big ones in that area, and one of them was kind of outside of our radar, but no, I mean, outside of his wheelhouse, but definitely on our radar. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
was actually the biggest deer, age and inches wise. But I was hunting another one, and he kicked my ass in September. It was a cat and mouse. I was here and he was there type deal. He daylighted twice while I was in the woods, a half a mile from him in a tree, and
Mm-hmm.
he's at a different stand
Camera.
location.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that, like, September kicked my ass, and I loved it because I hadn't been hunting mountain bucks for quite a while now, and I was like, awesome. Like, this is what it feels like to be in the grind again, like
Mm-hmm.
getting my teeth kicked in really by this deer.
Mm-hmm.
So hunted him some in October. He kind of shifted and shut down a little bit, pressure, all those things we were talking about. I got back after him in November again, and I took 2 weeks off work and full in on this deer. But in the back of my mind, I have this other buck that's in the area, but not a constant, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm hunting this specific deer, big 10 point, giant frame, just beautiful deer. And this other buck was a really big 9,
Mm-hmm.
huge mass, 10-inch brow on one side. I mean, just a biggest the biggest deer I had seen in a while. Um, you know, 165, 170-inch range. Really big,
Yeah.
beautiful 5.5-year-old. I mean, we've had 3 years of pictures of him. Like, we knew of this deer, and
Uh-huh.
I was hunting this other one that's actually a big 4-year-old. So anyway, in November, I'm hunting this one buck, kind of predicting that's who I'm gonna see, but knowing that this other one is around.
Uh-huh.
And keep it short, I was hunting a terrible weather day, my favorite day to hunt a big deer. I mean, it was pouring the rain all morning, uh, literally wind blowing 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts,
Uh-huh.
knocking trees down in my like next to my stand.
Uh-huh.
I'm I'm 30 feet up in a tree, literally holding on to the back of the tree while my tree's swaying.
Oh, I
And
hate that.
I'm just praying, but I looked at the weather and I knew it was gonna lighten up in the evening.
Yeah.
And I heard at about 10 o'clock all the guys that were it's a huge drainage. You can hear everybody drive.
Uh-huh.
Heard the, two other rigs that I had heard come up in the morning. I heard them leave at like 10 because it was just
Uh-huh.
terrible. Guys
Uh-huh.
didn't sit in it. And so I knew if I stuck it out, I was like, this is one of those days you see a big deer.
Uh-huh.
And about 2 o'clock rolls by and a doe comes right up the ridge at me. And I look down behind her. She gives the infamous look over her shoulder, and I look down there and I just see a cage. And I'm like, oh, it's the big 10 point, the buck I'm after.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's him. It's big deer. Trailing a doe. I hadn't seen him since July. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, we named him Skinny because he's super tall. He's got like long, skinny legs, but he's a tank, 5.5.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, like, holy cow. It's one of those deals where it's almost a trespasser in the rut. I'm like, I'm gonna kill Skinny. Here we go. And he comes in, follows this doe, comes to our big giant community scrape cluster that we've had success on before. And I draw,
Uh-huh.
picks his head up at 16 yards and starts hitting the licking branch. And he's hard quartered too. And I felt comfortable. I've killed bucks on that same shot, real, quartered two, but not terrible. Where I have confidence in my ability and my equipment to put it in there. I let it go and pounds him. Like, sounds great. Sounds like goes right through him, and he literally runs to the base of my stand and doesn't know what's going on, and then he starts walking down the hill and stops, and I'm like, oh, he's dead. Like, he's gonna tip over here. Like, it's over. Just smoked a
Uh-huh.
giant big. I've killed some beautiful whitetails, and it's the biggest deer I've ever seen on the hoof. And I'm like, I'm calm, but I'm pumped. I'm like, he's going down right here. Here we go. And he just turns and walks down the hill. And so then I'm like, what the, like, pounded him. It sounded great. Pin was steady. Feels great. And I looked down at my arrow, and my arrow is just painted red.
Huh.
Just exactly what you want.
Uh-huh.
Long story short of all the tracking process, it was pouring the rain, so just terrible conditions. It's literally like a monsoon for the following 3 days.
Uh-huh.
And so we got blood till the last spot that I saw him at about 100 yards standing there until he turned down the hill. No more blood. And we put on, between me, my brother, my dad, and one of our really close friends, a total of, like, I think it was like 38 miles of grit
Uh-huh.
for this deer over 5
Uh-huh.
days. And never turned him up, and blew my mind. I think now, once I tell you the rest of this story, I think I know what happened with that arrow, but I actually yesterday am sitting in Bozeman, and my dad's hunting that big 10 point on the last couple of days of season.
Uh-huh.
And he checks that camera and he goes, Skinny's alive.
Huh.
And so he came back about 2 weeks later, and that hard quartering two shot, yeah, I was right behind his shoulder. We slowed the footage down, and I had unbelievable footage of this deer, and
Uh.
um it was high on the entrance, but I'm hunting so much higher than guys hunt. I'm literally 8 sticks up, and
Mhm.
he's another 5 feet down the side of a hill. So I'm
Mhm.
35, 40 feet above this deer.
Mhm.
So that arrow's trajectory, like, we thought dead deer, and the arrow is lung blood, like 100%.
Yeah.
All that to say, he's on camera yesterday. As of now, we're speaking on the 5th, but he's literally on camera, and his exit wound is halfway up and back by his hip, with
Hmm.
hard quartering too.
Yeah.
You think how is this deer alive? Because you would think at least you get a lung and liver guts or something, and it kills him. The only thing that I can think of now is it must have hit a bone and deflected weird, because the one thing that my arrow was weird, it wasn't stuck in the ground. And I
Mhm.
shoot an 80-pound Hoyt. Like, at
Mhm.
16 yards, that arrow should be buried.
Yeah, that's almost like telling you that he either
Something
moved
hit,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
I think the only thing I can think of now is that it hit the scap maybe on that front high side, and like barely nicked it, and it turned, or it went back and hit a rib or something, and it turned that arrow weird in there where it didn't have a straight through. But all that story, all to say, it was hard. I was heartbroken, like, straight
Yeah.
up. We talk about all this work we put into this deer. This is a 3 a.m. wake up call to 2 hour drive to hour long trek in. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. And I get my opportunity on an unbelievable mountain buck, and I don't get it done. Plain and simple. I failed. I didn't kill him.
Mhm. Mhm.
And one thing that it's hard for me sometimes, because of my dad, because the truth is usually when a deer is under my dad, it's dead. Like, he dies. And so it's hard for me, being his protege, so to speak, when I get an opportunity at a deer like that, which me and my dad both know is extremely rare, and I don't get the job done. I don't do my
Mhm.
part.
Mhm.
And so the one thing I've learned from that, technically, is aim lower, because I ain't my pin was halfway up him. I'm at 16 yards, and I'm that steep. I got to aim a little lower.
Mhm.
I got to
Mhm.
be top third. And I promise you this: the next deer I shoot, I will not hit that high. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But the bigger thing that I learned from that whole experience, um, sometimes it's just not meant to be.
Yeah.
Because after looking at that deer's entrance and exit wound, and just the whole situation, you know, all of our close friends, you show them the footage, and they're all, "That's a dead deer." He's
Yeah.
dead. You got him. Like, good shot. But
Mhm.
what I learned from that experience is I just don't think the man upstairs wanted me to kill that deer this year, and I don't know why. I something happened with that arrow inside that buck, or something, where it didn't do what it was supposed to do, so to speak. And I
Mhm.
know that happens to guys. It's part of bow hunting. That's why they call it hunting, not killing, all those cliches. But I just think that what I learned mainly from that is you can put all the work in, and do everything in your power, and sometimes it's just not meant to be. And that deer, I just don't think it was meant to be for me to kill him this year. Um, Obviously, that's number one on the hit list next year.
For sure. Man, I don't the thing about hunting is it teaches you so many different lessons in adversity and about life in general. And
Yeah,
it's probably I'm 37,
yeah,
you're 22, and you know, I'm going to go out on a limb here. We'll talk about this. The Bible tells you to not let people look down on you because you're young.
yeah,
And you're one of those people that have something that's really cool because you're learning these hard lessons. You talked about mental toughness. You talked about hunting whitetails in the mountain. And now we're telling a story of adversity where you
yep,
got your butt kicked
yeah,
and you made a bad shot.
yep,
You're willing to talk about the bad shot. You're willing to teach other people what you think you did wrong in that shot.
Yeah.
Now you can translate that to life, and you're doing something important when we're
Yeah.
talking on this podcast about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because as much as we want every arrow to be a happy ending,
Yep.
and as much as you want to crawl in a hole after one doesn't happen that way,
Yeah.
dude, you come out so much better from learning one little thing about that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And what eats me up is I'm young. Yeah. I'm 22. But the truth is I've had past experiences
Exactly.
that are like this that would take 10 hours to share every messed up story, mistake
Oh, you
story.
don't you don't have to tell me, man.
Yeah.
I've
And
been there.
yeah. And so what eats at me still, and I'm trying, like you got to get over it is I feel like I should have already known, you know what I'm saying? Where,
Mhm,
the little things, where to put my pin and, maybe wait a little longer, let him turn or whatever it might be. But like we're talking about, I can't do anything about that now, but learn from the mistake that I made on this deer.
mhm,
And it had been a while. It had been a long time since since I made a mistake and didn't recover one.
mhm,
And I think I think it's a way of God humbling me and, telling me to really take in account of everything that happened. And first of all, be appreciative of the opportunity because that's
mhm.
something I don't want to overlook is guys in our region, in our country, most guys will never see a buck like that at
Uh,
that close.
in the
Ever.
whole country,
Yeah.
for sure.
And so that was like the first thing that I did was, thank you for just giving me the opportunity to see him. But then also like now I need to learn from it big time, and
Mhm,
not make that mistake again and do everything in my power not to make that mistake again.
for sure. So, your dad has put, his stamp on whitetail hunting in a really big way.
Yeah.
Are you doing something like your dad? Are you doing it differently? Do you mentor anybody yet, or do you have plans to do that in the future? I think this kind of stuff is a really good start. I mean,
Yeah.
I contacted you and you got back to me in like an hour, which is
I
awesome
I love
because
talking whitetails, man.
it's easy to talk whitetails, but we're talking about having an impact on people.
Yeah.
Because if we're hunting, and hunting can be a very selfish and solo sport. But if we're not sharing the things about it or sharing the things that make the relatable stories to the rest of your life,
Yeah.
it's not really it's not really worth it to humanity other than that you get to put some meat in your freezer,
Yeah.
right? How are you making it worth it for humanity?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you asked if you know, my dad has made such a big stamp, I would say, on the whitetail community because anybody that knows my dad or has ever texted my dad from literally Maine to California,
Mhm.
my dad gets back to you and
Mhm.
tries to help people, you know?
Mhm.
And and it's cool now because I've been able to do that with some younger people. One of my good friends wanted to get into hunting after high school.
Yeah.
And and I did, and it was cool because I got to do what I've seen my father do with so many people in life and genuinely want to help people
Mhm.
have success and have joy when it comes to hunting.
Mhm.
And so, I helped my buddy Trent out a bunch the last couple years, literally just teaching him how to hunt,
Mhm.
like basic stuff, and he busted his tail. And this is literally me like on the phone at midnight talking to him, trying to help him on tactics and trying to encourage him after not killing anything in September and stuff like that. And it took him, he's been hunting the last 3 years.
Mhm.
And this was pretty cool this year. We went out and I actually went with him in the summer or in the spring and we dove into some new country together.
Mhm.
Um, and put out a bunch of stuff and found some really good deer for northern Idaho. Nothing that I was super interested in, but a bunch of bucks for a guy that's literally never killed a big game animal in his life.
Mhm.
A bunch of awesome deer to hunt.
Yeah.
And so I was driving up to go hunt this big deer in November, and I'm literally like on my way up to hunt him, and he calls me at like 8 in the morning, and he's like, "Ty, I just killed a dandy buck." Like, he's like, he's freaking out, and I can just hear it in his voice of, "I got one, dude. Like, I finally got one." And I'll tell you what, like, he put a lot of time in. Now, was it very calculated and efficient time? No, but he's brand new to it. And
Yeah.
so I was so, like, so pumped for him. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm driving up right now to go hunt so and so and blah, blah, blah." And I'm pumped for him. I get off the phone and I drive for like 5 more minutes, and I'm like, "What the heck am I doing?" I was like, "Get your butt down there and go help him get this buck out of the mountains," which is a feat in its own. You
Yeah.
teach him how to dress it, teach him how to get all the meat out, properly, and not hurt himself, cutting on him, and just little stuff
Mhm.
like that. Like, and that was seriously after this season, all the stuff that happened with me. That's like the story of this year was the mentorship of one of my good buddies that had never hunted in his life. And you can tell it's like he's done.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a whitetail hunter the rest of his life, you know. And so I mobbed down there and helped him do all the fun stuff, all the hard stuff, but the fun stuff, packing him out and cutting him up the right way and
Mm.
just stuff like that. So the whole mentorship side of it is like it was really, really fulfilling. And literally, I mean, that right there, like you were talking about, that makes me more proud of myself, so to speak, or just of the hunting industry more than me killing a big deer. Like,
Yeah.
that was special.
Yeah. And when you make an impact on like I don't wanna downplay killing a deer. It's
Yeah.
one of the best feelings you can have, but when you start being able to share things with other people
Yeah.
and they're also successful because you helped them get there, you're like,
Oh,
"Yeah." You know?
yeah, I was so pumped. Yeah, that was one of the I was smiling that whole 2.5 hour drive where I literally turned around and went the opposite direction to go help him. You know what I'm saying? I was
Yeah.
just pumped.
Yeah. That's a that's a really cool, genuine story, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. But that I mean, that's why we do it. Like you were talking about, to grow the industry and get people to realize how special just hunting in general is. Like, that
Mhm.
the look on that on my buddy's face when I got there was like made everything worth it. So yeah.
Yeah. So your seasons are wrapping up in Idaho and Washington State.
Yep.
Do you have any plans for the rest of the winter?
Um, I was scouting.
Scouting, shooting
Yeah.
some ducks?
Yeah. Yeah. I do a little waterfowl hunting over here in Bozeman just to scratch an itch of, putting camo on. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
For sure.
And it's camaraderie. I got buddies that I used to play with football over here that we love to go get up at 2 in the morning and go do all the work for a duck. So
For sure.
we're
It
doing
is
that, and I wish I had a little more time in my schedule to go hunt a late season Midwestern buck, but I just don't think that's gonna happen this year.
well, you're 22, you have plenty of time for it.
Yeah, I do.
Alright, dude, where can people find you at?
Um, get a hold of me on Instagram, just Tyson.Pottenger, all lowercase, and then Facebook is just Tyson R. Pottenger. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like the old man says, if you ever want to shoot the shit on whitetails, send me a direct message and I'll probably get back to you within an hour.
For sure. Now, are you filming for Whitetail Addictions as well?
Yep. Yep. So working for Lone Wolf Custom Gear, and then any old episodes or episodes that are going to be coming out next spring. Whitetail Addictions official on Facebook, and then Whitetail Addictions on YouTube, and it's actually under Lone Wolf Custom Gear's page. So if you want to get to the site itself, go to Lone Wolf Custom Gear, and you can watch all the killers on our squad knock down some big deer on Whitetail Addictions.
For sure. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for your time. I hope we get to talk again next
we'll keep
fall.
in touch for sure.
For sure. We're gonna be telling some success stories next fall.
I hope so.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you.
Yep.
Well, that's a wrap in camp. Thanks again for listening week after week. I hope you enjoyed Tyson. Go ahead and check him out on Instagram. If you would, please leave the show a rating and review. It really helps the show reach more ears, and I so much appreciate it. I also want to hear from you, so go ahead and email me at incamppodcast@gmail.com if you have any topic suggestions or people you want to hear. If you'd like, you can follow the show on Instagram at incamp_podcast. Thanks again. You're all the best. Merry Christmas in 2 days. This is In Camp Podcast.